Hello everyone and welcome to another exclusive yoga session. This yoga session is recorded exclusively for Meditation Lighthouse by Nin Yoga. We hope you enjoy this yoga session.
Namaste yogis. Today's Yin Yoga class will get you into a different, more relaxed state. We're aiming to gently move your body and stretch deeply into the muscles. This class is perfect if maybe you're feeling a little bit vulnerable, or maybe you haven't been feeling well and you just want to do a little bit of movement again. For this class, a pillow or a bolster might be helpful. So with that said, let's get started. We're going to begin in seated position. So crossing the legs and just circle the shoulders round, getting that movement back. Connect with your breath. And once you've circled them one way, come back in the opposite direction. And in this class, we're not aiming to move the head too much. Once you're back to center, stretch your arms above your head and put the fingers into a pistol-like position, and we'll take a seated tick-tock. So here, just stretch out towards the right hand side, opening up your rib cage and the obliques, allowing you to breathe deeper with the lungs into an area that often feels tightness when we're hunched or maybe ill. Come back to center now and stretch to the left. Now come back to center and we'll come into a child's pose. So maybe just working your way into that pose, coming onto all fours into tabletop, and then exhaling, bringing the bum back towards the heels and sink into child's pose. This pose is an opportunity to listen to your breath and just focus on that. If you're feeling particularly vulnerable today or ill, try not to listen to those maybe internal manifestations that you're ill and that you can't do something. Try to block out those thoughts and just concentrate on your breath, and it's very hard to do that sometimes when you're feeling in this state. And feel the tension in the back begin to release. And we'll stay here for 2 more minutes. Just centering your mind into the present. And focus on the stillness of your mind and your body, and let go. If it's available to you, maybe walk forward with your fingers and stretch deeper into this pose. Alternatively now, you might release this pose a little bit and use a pillow to rest your head on. Now begin to come back and tucking the heels, tucking the toes under, work your way up into a downward facing dog. Just pedal it out here. Feel that stretch in the calves. Press the sternum back to the thighs. And lifting your seat up to the ceiling or the sky. And then release, bringing your ankles down as far as they can go towards the floor. Wonderful. Now walking forward on the mat so that your feet are between your palms. Inhale and come halfway up, stretching out the back slowly, and then exhale, and then with your palms on the mat, vertebra by vertebra, rolling up into a standing position. Once you're up here, inhale, palms up above you, and then coming down to the mat, working our way down into a seated position. And in this next pose, we'll take a seated forward fold. So here I'd like you to have your legs stretched out in front of you. Try to flex the feet as much as you can. This is an amazing stretch for the hamstrings. But there are some options. You can either sit on a cushion, and that will allow you to get a bit more deep into the hips. Or you can sit on the mat, maybe a micro bend in your knees as you come forward. And just walking forward with the palms, resting them on the shins, or maybe you'll be able to straighten the legs out and reach around the ankles. Just see what feels best for you here. Just surrender to gravity here, and we'll be here for 3 minutes. So if you begin to feel this is too tight or too deep, just come out a little bit more. What it's important to do is find your edge here, and that doesn't mean exerting yourself to the point where you have to come out immediately, because the purpose of this restorative class is that we're going to be sat in a position for a couple of minutes each time. So find what feels best for your body today. Wonderful. Now begin to breathe a little bit more deeply and slowly come back up into seated. Bend the knees here, soles the feet on the mat, and just do a windscreen wiper from side to side, just getting that blood back into the hamstrings and the calves here. And once you're done, work your way onto your hands and knees into tabletop, and we'll just take a few cat-cows here. Lifting the tailbone, dropping the stomach, opening up the chest, shoulders away from the ears, and then exhale, tucking the belly in, the tailbone down, and dropping the neck. Just repeat that a couple of times at your own pace. There's no need to move the head too much if that doesn't suit you today. Slowly and mindfully with your breath. And then tucking the toes under, we'll work our way into a downward facing dog. Once again, just feeling that stretch through the calves, through the arms, letting the head drop. And from here, lift the right leg up to the sky, don't let the hips open, stretching up the right leg, and we'll come into a pigeon pose. So bringing the right knee towards the right wrist and the right foot towards the left. Don't worry if your shin isn't parallel with the front of the mat. We're just trying to get as close as we can to this, but all bodies are different, so just do whatever feels right for you today. And use a block or a pillow, maybe to sit up on, if that helps you get more deeply into the pose. Maybe tucking the left toes under and then just moving them out slightly so that you can get deeper into this pose. So you can stay upright like this, or option, you might bend your left leg and meet it with your right hand. This is an advanced option. This is a very deep stretch. Alternatively, you might come down onto your forearms into this pose and just breathe in here. This is a very intense pose for the hips and releases a lot of energy and brings a lot of oxygen to an often stagnant area. So just keep mindful of your breath and breathe through anything. And if it becomes too much, just come out slightly of this pose. If it feels comfortable, maybe put your head on the pillow or a block to allow you to go deeper and really feel the nurturing benefits of this pose. we're going to be here for another minute. Once you're done, come back up onto your hands if you're not already. And then come back into tabletop pose. You might want to circle around in this pose. And once you're done, come up into a downward facing dog, stretching out any tension, noticing the difference maybe on one side compared to the other. Just take 3 breaths here before we come onto the other side into pigeon pose. Lifting up this time the left leg up to the sky, don't open the hips, and bringing your left knee towards your left wrist, your left foot towards your right. And don't worry here if you've got a completely different angle than you did on the other side. It's quite normal to have different balance on different sides of the body and different levels of flexibility. Just do what you can today. So if your shin isn't parallel, or maybe it's more parallel, then that's just something to observe. Again, some options here. You might bend your right leg and meet it with your left hand, or you might tuck your right foot under, just come a bit more deeply into the pose, or you could sit on a block or come down with the forearms to the mat, kissing the forehead on the mat, and just sink again deeply into this pose for 2 minutes. Once again, if this feels too much, just ease off in this pose a little bit and come into a modification. Or as you begin to sink down and find the breath, you might be able to go more deeply into this pose. And once you're done, come up onto your hands as before, and untucking the left foot and come into tabletop and just stretch back into child's pose. And then back into tabletop. And then come to sit. And now we're going to take a pose called dragonfly pose. Now this is a really strong hip opener. and it opens up the pelvis. So I'm going to offer a few modifications here. The first one is bringing a block into the pose. So here, just have your legs open as wide as possible, trying to keep your feet flexed and straight legs. Use the block, if you would like, to sit up on, as it will allow you to sink more deeply into the hips and open up the space. Or bring the hands behind the back, opening the chest and looking up to the sky, lifting the chin. Or bring maybe the block or a pillow in front of you, or maybe both, and just resting the head on there and feeling that stretch in your pelvis and hips. Walk your hands as far forward as they'll go, but not too far that it begins to hurt. We're all on a journey, and it's not about the destination here. Listen to your body, and that is the purpose of this style of yoga, which is far more meditative and mindful as we focus on our breath and deepening the stretch. And we'll be here for another minute. Try to keep the feet flexed. If you need to bend your knees slightly, then feel free to do so. A micro bend, or just coming up, maybe with your hands behind your back. Well done. Now begin to bend your knees if you haven't already. Wiggle your legs and bringing the feet closer together, knees together, and just again do some windshield wipers here. Maybe just here, stretch out your feet straight, and then coming back, bring the knees towards our chest and hug our knees and just stay in this restorative pose. Once you're done, bring the feet together and we'll take a butterfly pose. So the soles of your feet come together. Maybe your hands can help you there. Hold on to the ankles and then let your knees drop out to the side. You might use your elbows here to prop open your knees, bringing the chest forward. Or if this feels too much, just come up into a seated position, hands behind your back again, opening up the chest. Do whatever feels right for you today, and we'll just stay in this pose for 2 minutes. Breathing in, feeling that hip opening and pelvic opening. Take a few last breaths here. And then begin to come out of this pose. Again, let your knees drop from side to side. And then bringing your legs out in front of you, we'll come into our final resting pose, Shavasana. So come flat on the mat, relaxing your jaw. And as we welcome complete relaxation throughout the entire body, just scan how you now feel. Feeling your shoulders melt into the mat. Observing your breath into your rib cage. Coming down and filtering into the abdominal area. And visualize the breath healing any areas of tension or vulnerability. Visualizing your thighs and calves just melting into the earth. Observing the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. And if your thoughts get distracted by any noises, sounds, or maybe apprehensions about the day, just come back to this moment and center yourself with your breath. Don't judge yourself for those thoughts. Just come back into the present moment. Imagine the breath is like waves crashing against the shoreline. In and out. Now gently begin to come back into a consciousness. Wiggle your feet, wiggle your hands. And gently rock to the side into a fetal position. And work your way up into a seated position where we started. And from here, just rolling the shoulders back and forward, keeping the spine as straight as possible, heart above the pelvis, head above the heart. Inhale, palms up above you, stretching through the armpits, palms together, and we bow and say Namaste. Namaste, my friends. I hope you enjoyed that gentle yin practice, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again soon. Namaste.